We have a very, very strange shiur this morning. One that if my father or my rabbeim would hear me give, I can just imagine what their faces would look like, their raised eyebrows. But I was taken on this journey this morning, and then I have been debating whether to share it with you or not. And I figured, well, if I was taken on that journey, why not take you on the same journey and see where we go? Gemara is in Avodah Zarah, Daf Yomi Avodah Zarah, hands and feet. Nisוך דרגל לא שמיה ניסוך. The case here is a case of our Yanuka de Tana Avodas Kechovim B'shit Shani. There was a young boy who learnt Masechta Avodah Zarah and understood it at 6 years old. Bo mine, so they asked him a kasha. So you can already see why you can't blame me for going in weird directions. The story already starts strange. That there's a 6-year-old who learned Avodah Zarah, what one can understand. But bo mine, they ask a shaila, is there nobody else? I understand the 6-year-old's very bright and he knows a whole lot, but is there nobody else to ask a shaila other than the 6-year-old? Can a Jew and a non-Jew trample the grapes together in a wine press to make wine? And it's already a Mishnah. We had a Mishnah 2 daf back, that's okay, and then we've got a Mishnah that's not okay. So that's probably what they're asking him. Do we paskin like the Mishnah or like the Mishnah Achrona? Omalu, he said to them, Dorchim imayivid kechovim begas. You may do so. So they said to him, V'hor kamenasech biyodeh. Aren't you afraid that he could use his hands? Okay, his feet, he's stamping on his feet, but he could use his hands. The non-Jew with his hands might dedicate the wine to Avodah Zarah, and then it would be נסוך, this idol-worshipping non-Jew. So the Yanuka says, we tie up his hands. His hands aren't. It's true that if his hands are free, then maybe you handcuff him. For can he not have the intention to cause the wine to become Avodah Zarah, to become נסוך with his foot? Does it have to be the hand? Who says it has to be the hand? Says the Yanuka, נסוך דרגל לא שמיה ניסוך. נסוך made by the leg is not נסוך. He paskins a halacha. And then the Rishonim go in and out. Do we paskin like the Yanuka? We don't paskin like the Yanuka, the young boy, and so it goes on. And the Rishonim don't even mention it. I didn't even see Rishonim who mentioned this strange story, why the Yanuka, what it is. There's a bit of discussion. Were they asking him about an actual event that took place, or were they asking him a halacha? Were they testing him? Were they checking how well he knows Avodah Zarah or not? But if it was just a check, I'm trying to just read the words of the Gemara as it is. If it was just a test, why would the Gemara include it? Why would Ravina and Rav Ashi have put the story in the Gemara? Was that the only child that was ever tested? So clearly his words are important in halacha. So who is this young child, and why is the story relevant, and why are we listening to him, and what is he saying? There's something more also disturbing me more in the pshat of the story. Nisוך דרגל לא שמיה ניסוך. There's a machlokes in the Rishonim. The Rosh says, we learn from here, Ovid kechovin shedorach yain beraglav, that if an idol-worshipping non-Jewish person stamps on wine with his feet, kivan shetarud bidricha shari bahano. Since his mind is on his stamping, his mind is on making the wine. He's not in a religious place. Idol worshippers aren't like B'nai Torah, whose mind is on Hashem no matter what they're doing. This is idol worshipping. When he's in front of the idol, he's worshipping idols. Now he's busy making wine. So we're not worried. But if he uses his leg to move the wine and thereby dedicate it to idolatry, that certainly is נסוך. That wouldn't be allowed, says the Rosh. The Ran says, no, I don't agree. I hold that afilu be'ein mitkavein limlocha. Even if he's not busy with his work, he's just standing around stamping on the wine, his mind is on something else altogether. Lo shmei ניסוך. That's not ניסוך le'aser bahana, and still it's not also bahano. It's not forbidden to have benefit from it. The Raavad goes a step further and says, Perush eino chashuv lihiyot menaschin kein. Kicking the wine around is not an important enough activity to be considered נסוך. Therefore, They consider using their leg to dedicate the wine. That's disgraceful. If you want to dedicate the wine to Avodah Zarah, you don't kick it. It's not an activity that is fine. So he would say even more than the Ran. The Ran says even if he's not mitkavein at all, he's just messing around with the wine. Still, it's not yain nesech. The Ravid goes further and says, and the reason it's not yain nesech is because that form of action, kicking instead of handling, is not the way they do yain nesech. So we can assume this is not yain nesech. This is not wine that has been dedicated to idol worship. My difficulty with all the Rishonim is the words that the Yanuka uses. He doesn't say dericha deregel lo shmei ניסוך. He doesn't say stamping on the wine doesn't create yain nesech. He says ניסוך deregel lo shmei ניסוך, implying even if the person dedicates, he's doing nesech. That's what he's doing. He's dedicating it to Avodah Zarah. Why is the Rosh talking about only if that's not his intention? And the Ran says, well, even if it's not his intention, if his intention is neutral. And the Ravid says, because that's not the way it's done, so we assume that it's not. The Yanuka says, ניסוך דרגל, he is intending to do it. That's what he's doing. The problem is, it doesn't work. The Yanuka seems to be saying something almost Kabbalistic here. It just doesn't work. It doesn't matter what he's intending. Nisוך דרגל, no matter what your intention is, if you used your leg as the vehicle to dedicate the wine to yain nesech, it doesn't catch on. It doesn't work. The only Rishon that I saw in the Vilna Gaon brings it lahalacha in Siman Kuf Kaf Dalet is the Rashba, where he says, Pshuto mishum de ניסוך דרגל lo shmei ניסוך afilu bekavona. Even if his intention is, it just doesn't work. That kind of ניסוך doesn't work. And that led me into wondering, is this child, the 6-year-old, is he tapping into something more than just the halacha? If it was just about the halacha, why would you ask the 6-year-old child? There are all these chachomim standing around there. Why would you ask the 6-year-old? Doesn't mean the 6-year-old's wrong or doesn't know, but surely there are other people to ask. So is there something, does this young child have a gift to be able to tap into something deeper? And it made me think there's the story in the Zohar, in Parshas Balak, of Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Yehuda, who were going on a mission, and they were visiting Rav Amnuna's Saba in Kfar Sichnin, which is up here in the Galil. And they went in to visit. Rav Amnuna's Saba's wife is there, the Rebbetzin is there, and she invites them in, and the son has just come home from school, and she calls the son and she says, you've got an opportunity to get a bracha from Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yitzchak. Ask them to give you a bracha. The son comes close and says, I don't need a bracha from these people, thank you very much. And they question, what are you meaning? How can you behave like that? He says, they haven't said Kriya Shema yet. I don't need a bracha from them. And Rabbi Yitzchak and Rabbi Yehuda say, he's right. We haven't said Kriya Shema yet. We've been busy with a very important mitzvah, with the chosin and the kala. We haven't had a moment to do that. And we were osik b'mitzvah, potem in our mitzvah. We didn't have to say Kriya Shema yet. But he's right, which is so interesting. That means that even when a person is potter from a mitzvah, if you didn't do the mitzvah, it's tangible. It can be sensed. So that's a Yanuka. The same word is used. A Yanuka who is able to sense, and he said he could smell. He could smell it on their clothes that they hadn't said Kriya Shema yet. So this Yanuka has an extra sense that he's using. Is it possible that the Yanuka here also is not just talking about the halachas and he's reasoning it out from a Mishnah, which the Chachamim themselves know? Isn't something else going on here? What made me think also, I think I've mentioned to you before, Rav Kook writes in the Shmoneh Kvotzim, that as civilization becomes more sophisticated intellectually, it loses its intuitional ability. And emunah is intuition. So as we get more cerebral and intellectual, we get less able to tap into emunah, into true belief of Hashem, which is much more deeply embedded in one's soul. So Yanuka too, I started thinking, can it be that a child, before he starts getting too intellectual, is able to sense things that adults can't? And we know that that's sometimes true. I mean, would that even explain how the baby before it's born can learn the whole Torah? The less it gets involved in analytics, the more it can sense through vehicles other than just left brain analysis. And that led me into an interesting place where the Ben Ish Chai wrote a sefer, Shailas and Shuvas, a big sefer. He wrote so much stuff. Ben Ish Chai from Baghdad, this is an amazing human being, and certainly followed by the Iraqi and other Sephardi Jews in terms of minhagim and psakim, even till today. And he wrote a Shailas and Shuvas. But what's interesting in the Sephardi approach, and particularly in his approach, is this intermingling of Kabbalah and halacha in a way that you would never find in a Lithuanian posek. And he says, after explaining why there's a ruach ra'ah, why there's a negative energy on the fingers when we wake up in the morning, for which we have to wash. And he explains it's on the toes as well. And he talks about the 10 fingers and the 10 toes, and it's 5 plus 5, and it's 10 plus 10, and a whole Kabbalistic thing. Then he says, so why don't you do netilas yadayim on your feet? Netilas raglayim, every morning you should have to wash your feet, just as you wash your hands. And he brings from the Makubal Ma'ashach from 200 years earlier, gives a reason. This negative energy is much stronger on the foot than it is on the hand. And a few glasses of water is not going to get rid of it. It's much more powerful than that. Only the Kohanim and the Beis HaMikdash, using the power of the Beis HaMikdash and the power of their kahuna, together with washing, they were able to remove this tumor. But we can't do that. And he says, and that's why Erev Shabbos we should wash our feet. The halacha says you wash your face, your hands, and your feet. And the feet is because it says with the schus of Shabbos, together with the washing, you can remove this negative energy, this ruach ra from the feet, that you can do at Erev Shabbos as well. And it links in, I think, to the whole din. There's a lot of discussion whether one can daven bare feet. Can one daven barefoot in a place where people walk barefoot, where people will go to important meetings barefoot? And one sees that there's a negative energy on the foot that you don't want to display at a time of davening, whatever that means. And so, is it possible that this Yanuka is telling us the foot doesn't have the capacity to transfer kavanah? You transfer kavanah with your hands. You can hold something. You can do a kinyan with your hands. You can hold a mitzvah with your hands. You can do things with your hands, but they have to be cleaned of this negative energy. But the foot can't be cleaned of this negative energy. And so with the foot, you don't do these things. You can't initiate. You can't implement kavanah with your foot in a way that has any kind of kedusha attached to it. And although yain נסוך is not kedusha, we've spoken about it as a real spiritual force. And is it possible that the Yanuka understands that ניסוך דרגל לא שמי ניסוך? You can do what you want with your foot. It's not going to transfer any spiritual energy to anything. The foot isn't capable of doing that, because the foot is attached to the foot is a form of negative energy that makes that impossible, other than the Kohanim, the Beis HaMikdash, for the reason that the Ben Ish Chai gives us. And that's where it went. It led me to another tshuva of the Ben Ish Chai as well, and another part of his sefer, where he talks about how people have had enormous intuitive knowledge without having any access to Torah. And he talks about the imahot, Leah and Rachel. How did they know Torah when they were living in the house of Lavan? And he explains that. And he gives other examples of that. And he talks about the Yanuka in the Zohar as well. And we know that there are many cases. The Vilna Gaon was very young when he had enormous knowledge. We know that there is discussion about people who had enormous knowledge, but the Ben Ish Chai talks about this as intuitive knowledge. What these people knew as young people. Shmuel HaNovi was 2 years old when he understood Emunah, he understood the Ribono Shel Olam. Rachav, even Rachav Hazoino, in the case of Yeshua, when she converted, she immediately, with her conversion, she was able to understand so much of Torah. We talked yesterday about the fact that Torah, even and science, it's a whole system. It works. It's real. It's not something that is only the Torah gives you these laws. It's the way the Bria is wired. It's the way the universe is wired. That's what the Torah tells us. It's all there. So it's possible to intuitively intuit so much of Torah, as Avraham Avinu and the early Avos understood the whole Torah without having been given the Torah. It was all through this process of a very pure human being able to intuit the deepest of things. And I was wondering to myself this morning as I was just, I couldn't tear my mind away from this Yanuka, from this young 6-year-old. Is it possible that the 6-year-olds understand something about the hand and the foot and the difference between the hand and the foot? And there's a discussion in the Rishonim whether it's only the foot, what about other parts of the body? And according to the way we're describing it, it would be only the foot. If you use other parts of the body, it would be like the hand. It's only the foot that isn't capable of creating yayin nesach. Is it possible that this young Yanuka is tapping into something deep and something mystical in what the foot is and how the foot works in the way that the Ben Ish Chai actually explains?